what better way to start season 2 of Ronstan's Shooting the Breeze than to have the Queen of Sailing as our special guest. Welcome, Carolijn Brouwer.
Thanks, Brayshaw.
All right. As I said to you just before this interview, normally I have a certain way I do these interviews, but I'm going to change it up because you're different, but in a very, very special way. I like to call you the groundbreaker, not just because of your sailing, but what you do in your sailing. The Olympics with the Tornado, which a 99.9% male-dominated class, winning the Volvo as the first female skipper, and then most recently sailing in the foiling A class, again a 99.9% male-dominated class, an extremely exciting and scary class, to be honest. What is it about you and being a groundbreaker? What makes you attract you to these events?
Well, thanks for the compliment. No one's ever called me a groundbreaker before, but yeah, I like it. Not too bad. I don't do it deliberately. I think it's just come naturally to me. I guess to start with the Tornado class, for example, I'd done 2 Olympics prior to the Tornado Olympics, and one was in the 470 and one was in the Europe dinghy. And they removed the Europe dinghy from the Olympic cycle after that, and they went back to the laser radial. And I sort of thought that at that point in my sailing career, I just wanted a little bit more of an adventure, a little bit more of a challenge. And so I decided to try the Tornado. I'd never sailed a catamaran before or a multi-hull before in my life, and I just took it on. And when I look back at my Olympic career, you know, I've been to 3 Olympic Games, but at every Olympic Games, I sailed a different discipline. That's probably not the best way to go about it if you want to win a medal. But sailing to me offers so much more. You know, it's about the adventure. It's about the challenge. It's about wanting to get out there every day over and over again and learning something new, learning something that you don't know yet. And I guess that's what's always kept me going. And that's why I say about my sailing, it's never a dull moment. There's always something crazy or something fast or something adrenaline filled happening. And I got the opportunity to then sail the Volvo Ocean Race. And I guess the Tornado was sort of open doors for me into ocean racing, it being a high performance boat. And, you know, all the apparent sailing, all that sort of stuff. So I guess that was sort of an entry for me into ocean racing. And then I was lucky enough to be part of the full female crew, Team SCA, in the 2014-2015 race. And that was just probably the biggest opportunity ever for women in sailing in general. And so when I got the opportunity to do that, like, you'd be pretty silly if you said no to that. So, and you just grab it with both hands, you know. As women, we still rely a little bit on opportunities that are given to us. But once you get given that opportunity and you sort of get your foot in the door, even if the door is just slightly open, it's up to you to just make the most of it. And I think that's what I've enjoyed is, you know, finding that slight opening in that door and then just going for it and making the most of it. And I guess then over to the foiling in the A class. Well, having a partner like Darren Bundock that's crazy about foiling too, sort of gets me closer, you know, to that door. And I think the first World Championship I did in the A class was in Holland in 2015, and I just loved the boat. Obviously, I'd done about almost 10 years or so in multi-hull sailing, and multi-hull sailing really became my thing. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the fast sailing. I enjoyed the 2 hulls. I enjoyed going fast. I enjoyed sailing with someone else. So from then on, in 2015, it was still just foiling downwind, no foiling upwind yet. And so, yeah, it was just getting the hang of that. And then, you know, the class is constantly evolving and modernizing, and all of a sudden, you know, the guys start foiling upwind as well. So you have to learn how to do that and get the hang of that. And so it's just a constantly changing sport. And I think I really enjoy that part of it. I enjoy the people that I'm involved with. I enjoy learning from the people. I'm extremely lucky to be able to train up at Lake Macquarie with the likes of Stevie Bundy and Adam Beattie. So I get my ass kicked by them, but it doesn't matter. You know, I'm training with the best of the world, and I'm learning heaps from them. So it's just the opportunities that I'm very, very fortunate to have been given, that I just embrace and try and make the most of it, and that just makes it heaps of fun.
I've seen some video footage that says otherwise to you getting your ass kicked by the boys. I've seen you smoking down on Darren and giving him the 2 forks as you go past. So, yes, don't underestimate yourself one bit whatsoever. So, this leads.
It only happened once, Brayshaw, but that's okay. I'll claim it. I'll claim it.
If it's on video and it's on the internet, it happens all the time. All right. So this leads me to my second question. Your name came up at the Ronstan Regatta not long ago because I was talking to the girls in the Australian sailing team, the radial girls, and hearing rumours that you could be coaching them a little bit in the coming up, or might even be the main coach. I'm not quite around the facts, but the excitement on their face to hear that Carolijn Brouwer was going to be doing stuff with them, because you're an idol of mine. Being a father of 2 girls, I would love my girls to evolve and be like you, and, you know, be groundbreakers, because you are a hero to a lot of females out there because of the fact that you stand up to the boys, take them on, and succeed. It's a bit of a weird question, but what's it like being this hero, being this idol to female sailors around the world?
Well, I don't feel it like that. It's nice of you to say all that. But it's, like I said in my first question, I don't do it on purpose. It just naturally happens. I'm just out there learning from the people around me, giving it my best and enjoying what I'm doing. It's very, very simple. And that's taken me so far in my career. And working with the Laser Radial girls now as their coach, sharing with Ben Walkermeyer, who's been great as well. I can learn a lot from him when it comes to specific laser sailing, which I haven't done in ages. So that's been really, really good, and building that relationship together with Ben and the girls. But I guess I'm very careful when I say this, because I say I've got to a certain point in my career where I want to give back to the sport that's given me so much. But it's almost, I'm very cautious when I say that, because if I say that, it almost sounds like I'm done with my own sailing and now I just want to help and support and coach other people. In this case, the girls in the Laser Radial class. But I'm not done with my own sailing. You know, it doesn't mean that because I've decided to coach and support and help others that I'm done with my own sailing. Not at all. And so it's a part-time job, and I'm still really keen to pursue my own sailing as well. I'm still hoping I can do a little bit more ocean racing. But I'm definitely not done in the A class, especially after the past nationals we had in January this year at RQ at Royal Queensland. I really enjoyed that. So I want to do more of that, and I've taken up wing foiling as well. So yeah, just a little bit of a foiling addict, and I'm just really grateful that I'm in that position, and grateful that I can now also pass on and share a lot of my experiences in sailing over the past 30 years with the girls in the laser radial.
From my experience sailing with you in the A class, from what I can see, all the boys are extremely accepting to have you, and whether it be you or a female sailing, we love it. I think it's fantastic. It only going to expand the class more to get more females in. So I mean, it might be one thing to say to lady sailing out there, that get in there, get involved, because the boys want you. Boys want you in there to have a great time and enjoy what they're enjoying, because it only makes the class and sailing better.
Well, that's definitely right, and you know, I had a little bit of a dip actually just before the A-class nationals, where I was training up at the lake with the boys, and yeah, they were almost doing laps around me or circles around me, and yeah, it becomes a little bit frustrating, and I sort of, yeah, I guess I was almost coming up with excuses like, oh, I'm not fit enough for this, I'm not strong enough for this, I'm not heavy enough for this, and but you know, we booked and I'd entered to go and do the nationals, so I was keen to go up there and just give it my all, and then I get to the nationals, and I don't finish in the top 5, because you know, the Stevies and the Bundys and the Adams, and they're all still up there, and but they're not just sailing circles around me, but they're sailing circles around the rest of the fleet as well. And that's when I said to myself, I need to stop being so harsh to myself. You know, of course I'm going to struggle keeping up with these 3 guys I just mentioned. They're probably top 5 in the world when it comes to A-class sailing. You know, Stevie is a multiple times world champion in the A-class, so he's proven it. So it's quite understandable that, you know, I'm not going to be battling it out with them out the front for the podium, but there's a whole fleet of boats out there that are, you know, a similar level to what I am, and the battle I had with them up there, with a few of the Victorian guys as well, with Dave Brewer and Stu, and it was awesome. Like, it was, you know, the fact that you're coming into the finish after 3 laps, and that you're just having to push it really hard because you don't know who's going to come over the finish line first. That's what makes it exciting, and that's what makes it fun. And yes, if I then finish mid-fleet, then that's the best for me. But it's still a great result for me in that fleet. And so yeah, coming home, or even halfway through the event, I was just, yeah, I felt like I had to take back my words from what I'd said previously, and I just wanted to do more and more. So I was really excited about it, and I was having heaps of fun, and I think as well the fact that we're now foiling upwind in the A's actually makes it better for me, or easier for me, being a lighter person. Yes, it makes it harder. So you still have to, it's quite exhausting still. You still have to be quite fit and quite strong. So I need to work on that a bit more. But the weight is less an issue in the upwind foiling, I find, than when you're going upwind in displacement mode. When you're going in displacement, though, that's when really the weight counts. Yes, it's probably better if I would be a bit heavier, but I'm not that disadvantaged when I'm foiling upwind. So I really worked hard on the upwind foiling, and it really paid off at the nationals. So yeah, bring it on.
Especially with differential, it's like adding 20 kilos to your shoulders, sucking that windward hull down. So
yeah, that's right. It's exactly like you say. It's the way I think. You know, I just think out there that when I pull max diff on, that I'm just 30 kilos heavier now. I'm just thinking, oh, this is just 10 Big Macs on me here, and let's just send it, you know. So yeah, it's good. It works.
Brilliant. All right, well, let's jump into the Olympics, because not only are you a diverse sailor all round, but you, as we mentioned before, you're a diverse sailor at the Olympics. 2000, the 470 for the Netherlands. 2004, the Europe dinghy for the Netherlands. 2008, the Tornado for Belgium. 3 very different events. What made you change each campaign?
It does sound a bit crazy, doesn't it? And in hindsight, I probably wouldn't have wanted it any other way. You know, it's there's a lot of hard lessons in all of those 3 campaigns. To start with the 2000 Olympics in the 470 dinghy, I wasn't actually meant to be there in the 470 dinghy. I was meant to be there in the Europe dinghy. But in Holland, we had a very strong group of female Europe sailors, and I lost the Dutch trials to Margriet Matthijssen, who ended up winning the silver medal at the Olympics in Sydney. So she did quite well. And I then did, because I'd lost the trials, I did a last minute change to the 470 class, which I think was always part of the plan in the Dutch Federation, to whoever lost the trials between the 2 of us in the Europe dinghy would then have a go in the 470. But it meant that we only had probably a 6 to maximum 9 month campaign before we had to start at the Olympics, and we had to win the Dutch trials in the 470 as well. So it was a really, really intense campaign, and I was very lucky to team up with a friend of mine, Alexandra Verbeek, who had a lot of experience as a crew in the 470. So I teamed up with her. We were called the Twin Towers. Back then the Twin Towers still existed. Both, very tall, quite lean Dutch girls. So I guess I was probably a perfect size to be a crew, and a bit too big or tall to be a helm. But that was my only option then. You know, if I were to be a crew, the learning curve and the learning time would have been a lot longer to get to Olympic level. So yeah, the helm option was there for grabs, and I gave it a go, and we won the trials, controversial trials, but we won them, and we ended up going to the Sydney Games. But you're there, and it's great to have achieved that, and it was great to share that with Alex. But in the end, you know that you're not really going for a medal. You know, we got conditions in Sydney that we'd actually never even sailed before together in the 470. So it was a really challenging regatta for us. And then for 2004, I sort of felt that I still had some business to sort out in the Europe class. Having left the class as the number 1 in the world, but never have made it to the Olympics. So I decided to give it another go. Coincidentally, Margriet, who sailed the Europe dinghy in the 2000 Olympics, then went into the 470. So we still went our separate ways. And made it to the Olympics in the Europe dinghy. Didn't do great. And after the Olympics in Athens in the Europe dinghy, yeah, like I said before, they removed the Europe from the Olympic program, and then it became the Tornado.
And in the Tornado, you stuck it right to the boys. I mean, you got a silver in 2007 in Cascais, Portugal. Like, you were right there, right at the front, and I think 12th at the Olympics on the Tornado in what was an extremely tough Olympics in what was it, Qingdao?
Qingdao, yeah.
Light, and then on the last day, really, really windy. So, I mean, you were really, and a class that's really expensive. Like, they're big boats. They freight them around the world. They cost a lot. You've got to put different sails on them. And then they're expensive. So, it was extremely impressive to do what you did in the Olympics. And to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if you're the reason the NACRA is now the mixed class, because you showed the way. You paved the way again, a groundbreaker. So,
well, I certainly hope, I had a little bit to do with that. After the 2008 Olympics, they removed the tornado class from the Olympics, it being the only open class at the time. And I fought really hard to keep it in the Olympics, or at least keep the multi-hull in the Olympics as a mixed, in a mixed configuration. And I battled quite hard within ISAF back then, World Sailing Now, and through to the IOC. And the message I got back then was that they didn't really encourage mixed sports into the Olympics. Well, 10 years later, we're seeing a lot of mixed sports, not only just in sailing, but the equestrian obviously already had it, but we're seeing it in tennis, in swimming. It's everywhere. So yeah, it's a shame that I couldn't continue in the Tornado because they removed the multi-hull from the program, but I'm definitely, really happy to see that it got back in 2016 in Rio, it being the NACRA, and that it came back as a mixed configuration. It's the Tornado class was a bit like the A class is now. Very welcoming, being one of the only females in the class, sailing competitively. It was tough at times, but the class was very open, received us with very, very open arms, and we were very welcome. On the water, it was a good battle, because the boys certainly didn't want to get beaten by a girl, so they would try extra hard. But on shore, very, very helpful, and we definitely learned a lot from the other competitors in the Tornado class.
It was unbelievable performance. What about, have you ever had an inkling to have a crack at the NACRA? Have another go? Now it is mixed. You and Bundy, Matt, try it together. Take on Jason and Lisa.
Oh, that'd be easy. No, I don't. Sorry, Jason, Lisa. No. I actually did the NACRA Worlds just after my Team SCA campaign in the Volvo Ocean Race. It was a bit crazy. I think it was 2 weeks after. But I did consider it. I also looked back at a really successful time with Team SCA, and Bundy also, Darren also, he was sailing the NACRA back then with Nina Curtis, and he'd been really good at basically following me around the world with Team SCA, and also doing his Olympic campaign at the same time. Kyle, our son, was only about 2.5 and then to 4 when the Volvo campaign finished, Team SCA campaign finished. So very, very young, and Darren, really took that on and took Kyle all around the world so we could be together during the stops. And so I sort of felt like after that campaign, that Volvo campaign, it was my turn to sort of be part of the family, and give Bundy a chance to pursue his Olympic campaign, and for me it was just the time to be a mummy again, which I hadn't done that great a job over the past 2 years. So it was just a different time of my life, and I'm really grateful that I got that time with Kyle and with Darren after the Volvo race in that year, and I wanted to give him the opportunity to have a go at it, and I wanted to be home and make up for the time that I hadn't spent with my family in those years.
It's a lot of fun flying with a toddler. It's an adventure I wish everyone to have. Now, as we spoke about before, working with the AST, Australian Sailing Team, and the Laser Radial women, being a former Laser Radial world champion, and having quite a young team in the Laser Radials in Australia, what's the program? What's the plan?
Well, the plan is to become the strongest and fittest laser radial squad in the world. That's part of the plan. It's a really good group of girls. I'm a real advocate of the squad environment, the squad culture. So I'll definitely be pushing and building on that. And I hope to bring a fair bit of experience coming from sailing in teams in the ocean racing with Team SCA, sailing with 13 other girls on one boat, sailing with Donfeng Race Team in a mixed configuration. So I really hope that some of my experience is there, that I can pass that on to the girls, and that that'll be valuable for our squad. But I also I really want, they're young, like you said, so you can sort of still mold them, but the girls, they're very experienced already for their age, and there's a lot of potential there. So what I really want to try and do is I'm there to support them, and our Ben and I are there to support them and to facilitate things for them, and to share all these moments and share their campaign with them. But the main thing for me is that they really take ownership of their campaign. They are the ones that have to own it, and they are the ones that have to, in the end, they're the ones that are in the boat, and they're the ones that are going to go out and get that medal for Australia. So I'm just there to help them create that path and go on that path, and help them see how they can be successful in doing that. So it's helping them pave the way.
Well, it sounds like Australia's getting a gold medal in 2024 in Paris, whether it be Mara, Zoe, or Casey, or anyone else that's in the squad that I've missed.
Elise, yes.
Yeah, Elise. So yeah, guaranteed. So you heard it here first. Ronstan Shooting and Breeze, Laser Radial Women's Australia gold medal. Bang. Let's jump into the ocean race, or formerly known as the Volvo Ocean Race. This race fascinates me because it's go hard from the moment you leave port all the way to the next port. There's no taking the foot off the handbrake. I mean, yeah, you probably do manager it a little bit, but it is a supreme race into the Southern Ocean. Some of the footage that came off the last one, I think the legs into Melbourne, you were seeing 50 plus knots for long durations, and then the New Zealand to Brazil race. As you said, and I've got it here in my notes, Amer Sports Too in 01-02, and then you took a bit of a break to Team SCA 14-15, and then Donfeng Race Team in 17-18, which you won, and you were the skipper, being the first female skipper to win the Volvo Ocean Race.
Well, I wasn't the skipper of Donfeng Race Team. No. Charles Caudrelier, a very experienced Frenchman, was the skipper.
Oh, okay. So
I wouldn't have been able to do that skipper role. Charles did a fantastic job, and we really have to thank him for our win.
I'm going to probably start with the last question first, which is there another one going to happen for Carolijn Brouwer? Well,
I'm the national radio coach now, so I could have the girls sail with me around the world. That'd be great. That'd be a good experience. It's been a bit hard, I think, just for the ocean race in general. Obviously, it's been hard on everyone the past 2 years with the pandemic. But the ocean race has been hit hard as well, and so they've also postponed. We're meant to have to start in October 2021, which got delayed to October 2022, and now the start is January 2023. And that's purely because of the situation with the pandemic, that things kept getting delayed. But the one thing I say about ocean racing, I mean, it's the best thing I've ever done, but it's also no doubt the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. It really, really takes a toll. Its toll, and in all areas, not just physically and mentally, but also, you know, family life, everything you leave behind, sacrifices. There's a lot going on there. So, like, if I look back at the 3 campaigns I've did, Amer Sports was absolutely fantastic. I did the 2 Southern Ocean legs, and I arrived into Brazil saying, "Oh, one day I got to do this whole race." I was just so stoked and so into it that I just wanted to do more and more. And that opportunity only came 12 years later as Team SCA. As I mentioned before, that was a campaign set up to put women's sailing back on the world map. And it was a team, or SCA being a sponsor, that wanted a women's boat in the race. So that was the golden opportunity for us. And that only came 12 years later. So it was a big learning curve, and we sort of almost had to start from scratch, whereas the guys had kept going around the world for another couple of editions. We hadn't had that experience, and sailing being an experience sport, especially also in ocean racing, it was really hard. We had a really good long build up, which was great, but it was still not enough to close that huge gap to the guys that had been doing it for years and years and years. And then Donfeng, you know, gone around the world with the girls, which was a huge opportunity. But here, for the first time, there was actually a realistic opportunity, or a realistic potential to actually win the Volvo Ocean Race. Them introducing the mixed teams, so that was another opportunity that I just couldn't say no to. So for me to go back after 3 campaigns and do another race, it has to somehow be a huge challenge, and it has to be something different. You know, if Charles rings me tomorrow and says, "Oh, Donfeng's got money, they want to go again, let's go," on the same boats, the Volvo 65s, there's nothing there for me to gain. There's too many sacrifices for me to do that. I really thrive on that challenge side of things. I set the bar quite high for myself, and also for the people that I surround myself with. So yeah, that bar is high, and just going around for the sake of going around the world, no, I've been there and I've done that. So you know, there was talks in Holland that potentially a Dutch campaign. In the last race, there was 2 other Dutch entries, and I was part of the Chinese team. So yeah, you could say that's a bit weird, but Donfeng is the team that suited me, and I suited them. So that was definitely the right decision for me to take. But yes, being Dutch, it would be a pretty special to be able to be part of a Dutch team. So that, you know, sets a different challenge, and sets the bar quite high as well, to have a Dutch team with as many Dutch sailors as possible. On the other hand, there's going to be two divisions now in the next ocean race, introducing the IMOCA 60s. That could have been another option. The IMOCA 60s, obviously, you know, foiling boats. So all of a sudden you're probably going around the world 30% quicker than what you had done before, possibly.
Unless it's upwind.
unless it's upwind. But generally, we go around the world the right way. See, I don't like going the other way. So we like the fast sailing, and that would be an option. It doesn't look like there's the IMOCA 60s in the ocean race are really coming off the ground, and there's not that big an interest in entries at the moment yet, which is a shame, because if you look back at the Volvo 65s, the boats are identical, the boats are one design, but we all saw it. It was the competition that really made the race successful. And it's also that competition that we thrive on as sailors. That it was probably the best part of the race was the fact that we're going into the last leg with 3 boats on equal points. That's unheard of. That's history in the making. So yeah, I'd say never say no, but I've set myself a pretty cool challenge now, working with the laser radial girls towards the Paris Olympics, which is not that far away. So yeah, we'll see how things go.
The Southern Ocean fascinates me. The big waves, the wind. Like, has there been moments when you've been out there where you've just gone, no, I'm not doing this anymore. This is enough, because it sounds scary as all hell.
I guess scary is a really big word. Yeah, there are really tense moments. I think if you're scared all the time, then you shouldn't be out there. But yes, there are scary moments, and there are very, very tense moments. But it's also, and I always try to explain, like, if it were 28 degrees down there, and there'd be other boats around, then anyone that loves sailing and riding waves would go down there in their yacht, But because it's very, very remote, it's far away, it's freezing cold, and these huge low pressure systems come over and make a big mess. It's very secluded, and people don't end up going down there, and that makes it scary. That makes it dangerous. But it's also, the coolest sailing conditions that you will ever sail in are down there. And, you can't just say, okay, I can't do this. I'm not going to do this. The way I approach the Southern Ocean, it's almost like you go on a sort of automatic pilot. You come on deck for your 4 hours watch, and you just do what you have to do, and you do the best job you can do in those conditions. Sometimes you enjoy it, sometimes you don't. You go down below, you make sure you eat, and you fuel up again, hopefully get some sleep, and you go back out there and you do it again, and you do that for 12 days straight. I never really, I always felt like, I was going to say I always felt under control. That's not entirely true. You don't always feel under control down there. But there was a huge amount of trust and respect in each other within, especially the Donfeng Race Team, that whoever was, whether you were driving, whether you were trimming, whether you were grinding, that the best person was at the job at that time, and that we worked really well together to make the boat as fast as we could in the conditions that we were in, because it's very easy as a skipper, for example, to tell your crew, just, send it and push as hard as you can. That's quite easy because we all want to go fast, and we come on deck and we see the boats around us. So of course you're going to push hard. But it's actually quite hard to tell your crew to actually take foot off the gas and slow down a little bit, just because of safety. And that's things that you have to do in the Southern Ocean. So to find, as a team, and especially as a skipper, to find that balance between when do I push my boat hard, and when do I tell my crew to actually deliberately slow down a bit to sail safe. is a really hard call to make. And I think in our team there was this huge amount of trust and respect in each other, and that's how we found that good balance. I mean, a lot of boats didn't actually make it to Brazil in one piece, so that says enough.
Are there memorable moments during the race, or is it more memorable legs? They kind of all the moments blend into one.
I get this question a fair bit. There's obviously a lot of memorable moments, but I think what stays with me, and when I think back, it's always there in the forefront, is actually not necessarily our celebrations when we got to The Hague and actually managed to win that race. But it was the celebrations by our shore crew. They were actually celebrating harder than we were. And that, to me, was the perfect outcome, because when we leave to sea, the shore crew stays behind, but they feel a huge responsibility because they are the ones that prepared the boat for us. They are the ones that prepared the boat for the next leg. And if something happens out there, they feel responsible. If something breaks or something damage, that they feel responsible for it just as much as we do, you know. So for us as sailors to see the relief and the weight that came off their shoulders when we made it to The Hague and we won, that to us was huge, because, you know, as sailors, we're the ones that are in the spotlight or in the limelight, but the shore crew, you know, being our pit lane in the Formula, like in the Formula One, or everyone that just was working just as hard as us to achieve this goal. And that was very visible to me at the end of the race when I saw them celebrating, and that, to me, yeah, that'll stick with me forever.
My last question on the Volvo is, how many days afterwards does it take you to stop feeling tired? Or do you just get used to the level of tired that you're at?
I think there's a really big thing to say there for how well prepared you are going into the race. Of course, we're all exhausted, and it takes its toll, and you need time to recover at the end. But it's also about how you recover during the stopovers. And we had this team doctor with Team SCA, and Antonio, and he was very, very adamant about us being the strongest and the fittest that we could be, that our bodies would let us be. And maybe we didn't have the weight, and so we didn't have the power that the guys had, for example. But as long as we got the maximum out of our bodies, and also make sure that we weren't losing too much weight from the beginning of the leg to the end of the leg, because then during the stopovers, you wouldn't recover. Like if you lose more than 2 kilos or you lose 5 kilos, there's not enough time for your body to recover. So having really had that a really good build up towards the race and feeling really, really strong going into the race made it possible to hold that fitness towards the end of the race, because all the crews and all the teams are fit for the first 4 or 5 legs, but it's in that second half of the race where it's really going to happen, and where you have to make the difference as a team. And so if you can make sure that your recovery is really good and that your batteries are charged during the stopovers so that you're ready to take on that next leg, and if you can keep holding that rhythm until the end of the race, then actually once you get to the end of the race, yes, there is that exhaustion, but it wasn't too bad. You know, yes, you've lost muscle mass and possibly a little bit of weight, but I think it's probably more mentally. It was probably more of something that I needed to recover. Like all of a sudden, for a year, your life has been planned from 6 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock at night. You get a WhatsApp text message the day before from the team manager saying this is the schedule for the next day, and it has it there from hour to hour, what you're going to do, where you're going to be, what you're going to eat, everything, what you're going to do at the gym. And then obviously once you're out at sea, then you get into that routine of racing. So life is just planned for you, every minute of the day for a year, in Team SCA's case over a year, and all of a sudden you get to the finish in The Hague at the end of the race, and the next morning you wake up, or maybe the week that you're still there, you have your commitments, but after that there's nothing, and that's when sort of you give your body the opportunity to just recover. Some people recover after a couple of weeks and get straight onto something else, or other people need months, 6 months to recover. So it's also very personal, but I do really believe that a lot has to do with how you're build up to the race and how you've handled it during the race.
All right, well, from that, let's jump into the foiling A class, both near and dear to both of our hearts. What is it about the foiling A class that you've brought you back year after year? It's probably, would you be about 10 years now that you've probably been in the A class foiling now? I think 2013 A class started foiling, and you were there prior to foiling.
I did one nationals prior to foiling. I borrowed I don't even remember whose boat I borrowed. I borrowed Chris Cairns' rig, I think, because he was also quite light. I would have done a nationals, but I think my real entry into the A class was that 2015 Worlds in Holland. So we went to Poland to explore there. We got our new boats there. We spent a week there setting them up, training, tuning them up, and then drove to Holland and did the Worlds there. And that to me, I think from then on, I was probably a little bit of a foiling addict before that, but I just got more and more and more. And it's a really nice boat. There's a lot of camaraderie in the class. Like I said, it's a huge opportunity to learn a lot from very knowledgeable and experienced sailors. I was really keen to learn about foiling, and the A class is a perfect class for that. I just enjoyed it, and the class here in Australia, because obviously that's where I've done most of my A class sailing. The best sailors in the world in the A class come from Australia. So it's just the competitiveness, the camaraderie, and just it being a very, very, very cool boat to sail, and forever evolving and forever learning.
And you probably live in the best spot in terms of location in Australia to sail a foiling A class, being Lake Macquarie. Flat water, consistent breeze, just unreal. Just awesome to do it. What's your favourite part about the A class sailing? If you're going to sell it to someone, what are you saying? The A class is so good because...
I think it's just the flying above the water and the speed. I think that's what really, really does it. And I do also like to a certain extent, but I was going to say the tweaking on it, always. And that's why I consider myself really lucky to be able to train with guys like Stevie, Bundy, Adam up at the lake, because I know that I'm going to learn from them. The boys have a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge, and I just tap into that, and I know that I'm in good hands. So I do feel, and I always say I get Bundy's leftovers. So Bundy gets a new boat and I get the boat that he sailed that season. But how lucky am I to be able to sail that boat? You know, I know that that's a top boat to be able to sail. So I know that I'm going to step into a boat that I'm not allowed to complain about, oh, my settings were wrong or I had the wrong setup. It's really, really down to me sailing the boat. And you have to do things a little bit differently, you know, being lighter and probably not as strong, not as powerful as the guys. So when I get the boat from Darren, from Bundy, it doesn't mean that I sail it exactly the way he sails it. So I have to sort of go out there myself and, you know, get the feel, tweak around to find the best settings that work for me, for my weight and my size and my strength. And I enjoy the camaraderie, the people in the class. They're really, really friendly. We have really good battles on the water and really good times off the water.
I'm guessing a different cut sail for being slightly lighter, or just running a little bit more spreader rake?
Yeah, a slightly softer mast as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Slightly softer mast, and a slightly flatter sail.
Okay.
So yeah, funnily enough, you know, people always say, oh, it's going to be light today, Caroline's going to be out the front, but it's actually, I don't actually do that well when we're going in displacement mode, when we're not foiling, you know. The boat for me really lights up when we get up on the foils and start flying away, and that's when I enjoy it the most.
It is a different level of sailing when you an A class and it just pops and just goes, especially the acceleration when you pop on the foils and go uphill. It is like downhill became kind of mundane, even though you're going faster downhill. It became mundane a little bit compared to going up hill on the foils, and then you have to tack and somehow get to the other side, which is it is it's a different world. I can give you the optic.
And I think that's the thing where you know, we got to improve when we sail up at the lake, because often, you know, we line up, we go up, and we get to the top, we stop, and we change our settings, we go downwind, and then you get to the nationals and you got to go around marks and foil around the offset and all that sort of stuff, and or you get to the ley line and you think, geez, I really got a jibe now, but you're going at 26, 27 knots and you're like, how am I going to stop this boat, you know? So, and you're squeezing your butt cheeks thinking, oh my God, and you end up overlaying. So, you know, there's so much to learn and to do better. It just keeps you going.
I've always said corners and tacks and jibes are where you can make up the big difference. Females in A class, clearly they can do it. They can get on the foils. I've just seen this week a young lady in America, in Houston. I saw a video put out by her sailing foiling A class.
Yeah, fantastic.
How does the A's get more females, more young females, or more older females, you know, to get into sailing an A, foiling in you know, as well? You know, it could be moth, could be wingding, the new Q foil and the windsurfer. Like, how do we attract more females into foiling or sailing in general?
Yeah, I think it's a really good one, because it is. I think it's maybe a perception that it's too hard, or physically too hard. But yeah, it's not. Yes, it is hard, but if it wouldn't be hard, then it wouldn't be fun. You know, you have to work. You have to really work for it to achieve something and to get the results. But I in the A class, I'm obviously very lucky in the position that I'm in, because my partner also sails the foiling A. I don't know if price, entry price is an issue, but yeah, there's, I think, a lot of different things for different people that make it an obstacle for them. So, you know, when you talk about pathways and making it more accessible through clubs, I guess that's why, for example, wing foiling is quite popular, also because of its convenience. You know, you have a backpack with your wing in it, and the pump, and you're bored with your foils, and within, wherever you are, and even within minutes, you're rigged up and off you go, and you can go for 45 minutes to an hour and come back and you've had a blast, and I don't know if there's a safety thing involved with it, but if you look, for example, the moth class, there's a fair few girls in the moth class. There's more girls probably in the wasp because it's more accessible.
And suited to their body weight too.
Entry level is easier, but still we are seeing more and more girls getting into the moth as well. And if I look at price between a moth and an A class, there's not much difference. Moths are maybe easier to transport. And
store.
Always and store. It's the space, the trailer, the transport of it is in the A class maybe a little bit more challenging. But yeah, I think I'm really hoping at least that with boats like the Wasp and also wing foiling, that the IQ foil now in the Olympics, that it will bring more girls to the sport. We're seeing in the America's Cup where they're introducing women as well. 69F, you see more women involved. The Magenta Project is doing a huge push as well to organize foiling clinics, foiling weeks. So the events are there and are being organized. So I think it's almost like it was a little bit with ocean racing as well, when we as Team SCA came back into the game that had been there for years and years. And it's the same here. The game's been there for years and years, and it's just that entry level. There's a bit of an obstacle, and I think the ball is starting to roll, and huge steps are being made in the right direction, but they're still quite small steps when you look at it in the big scheme. So I think it needs time, but we also still need to keep pushing. Also with A class sailing, I'm just thinking, you don't necessarily have to start in a foiling boat. You can just get into the class and sail the what we call the classic division, and then move up from there. So
you don't have to be on the best. You don't have to be on the best foiler either. Just learn foiling, because you're not going to be quick straight away.
And I think that's the thing. I think it's that. The wish and the desire to want to learn, and you have to have that, especially when it comes to the foiling side of things. You have to have that desire and want to learn, and you see, for example, Jo Ali in New Zealand. She's incredibly amazing on the wing foiler, and doing quite well in the moth as well. And really not be scared would be sort of my advice.
Yeah.
to reach out to the guys who just have more experience. There are no stupid questions. Just go out there and try and soak up as much information and as much knowledge as you can get from the guys. And that's how we did it at Team SCA. We had coaches, we had mentors, and they were all guys, but that's where we were getting our knowledge from, and just every bit of information we could get, we're just soaking up as a sponge. I think if you ask someone like Ben Ainsley, how did you get this far in your career, and he'll probably say just by asking questions, just going, reaching out to people and asking for help, or asking for support, or asking just to learn. You just need to learn. And the people are out there and they are willing to help in any class, whether it's the moth, whether it's the A class, whether it's wing foiling. It's a community, and the doors are open. So just got to take that step and do it.
Don't be scared to give it a crack. I got 2 more questions left on the foiling A class. They're quick ones. What did Bundy have to do to repay you for giving him your boat at the Nationals so he could keep sailing after he broke his?
I actually offered him my boat to him.
Nah,
bullshit. Coming down the last run.
He's had to pay a fine. What is it?
I was coming down the last run and I saw him limping in with run rudder up, and I said, oh, well, that's the end of the championship. And so I said, I was having a blast that event. I was just loving every minute of it. So I sort of was like, geez, I'm going to just give up my boat here. But at the time, Bundy still had a chance to win the championship. I was actually just helping. In my way of thinking, I was helping the championship as well. Had he not done that race at all, then his chances of winning were gone. And the battle between him and Stevie, that was so cool for everyone to be part of, wouldn't have been there anymore. So it was sort of just, giving him still a chance to win the championship. But there was an appeal just to sort out, because we always go back to thinking what happened at the Qingdao Beijing Olympics in the 49er class. Everyone talks about the Danish who broke their mast, came back, jumped into the Croatian boat, I think, went out and won the gold medal. So it's sort of what I did, I just said, here's my boat, you take it. And except I was out on the water already there with the boat. And had I not been there, then he wouldn't have been able to sail the race either, because there wouldn't have been time to go back to shore and come back out again. He would have been too late to start that race. So it was sort of the only option. So he hasn't had to pay back. It was my offer. But the result now is, from the appeal, is actually I got the bad deal, because he should have been scored DNC for not starting Oz 88, which is his number, and the result is that the NED 888, which I was, should have been disqualified. So anyway, I got.
He has a lot of brownie points to make up. I already know. And lastly on the A, will the A class see you in Houston for the Worlds, and then possibly a little bit later in the year at Lake Garda for the Europeans?
Unfortunately, not in Houston. I would have really loved to come, but it doesn't fit with my coaching schedule for this year. And also, I haven't been back in Holland to see my family for over 2.5 years. So at the moment, that has priority, and which is what we'll be doing then. But I am quite keen to potentially in September see if I can get myself to Lake Garda and do the Europeans. Lake Garda is an awesome spot to sail. And you put an A class on Lake Garda and got the best of both worlds. So if I can make that happen, I'd be really keen.
Boat end, go right. Hit the wall and go back. And there's my tips for you.
Fast when foiling, that's me.
And overlay. Anyway, quickly, the last few topics. World Sailor of the Year. I think a few people forget, like 1998 and then 2018, like twice. So 2 Rolexes, I'm guessing, are in the house. One for each wrist. Yeah.
There's one Rolex in the house. The 1998. I think I got a pair of shoes. They didn't have Rolex back then yet. But yeah, 20 years apart, and yeah, it's quite cool. One was in 98 was for my achievements in the Olympic Europe class, and 20 years later it was for my achievements in the Volvo Ocean Race, in ocean racing with Donfeng Race Team in a team environment. So yeah, pretty cool. Who knows? in 20 years' time, what can happen?
Yeah, on schedule. 20 years, every 20. Carolijn Brouwer, World Sailor of the Year. All right, man. My last question. I always like to finish on this. Young sailors and young female sailors, what are you saying to them now about aspiring to be? It doesn't have to be Olympian. It could be Sail GP, America's Cup, Ocean Race. What are you telling them to help them set their goals, to help them achieve their goals? You're doing it now with the AST girls. What advice are you giving them?
I would say take every single opportunity that you can get. And like I started saying at the beginning, if that door is just remotely open, just put your foot in there, and then it's up to you to make the best of it. But if you can have those opportunities, create those opportunities for yourself, then go out there and give it your all. And the way to do that is to surround the people are there to help you and to guide you and to give you tips and to give you suggestions, to give you advice. So don't be scared to reach out. And that's the only way that you're going to learn. And there is so much knowledge out there to be given. You just need to, take that step and go for it and embrace it. And it's not always going to be easy, because it's a tough world out there, especially if you're leaning towards past the club level and towards more professional sailing. It's a tough world out there. Everyone's fighting for a small amount of positions, and also for women it's still tough out there. But I think it's embracing the opportunities, making the most of it, and reaching out for support and for help, and don't be scared to ask the questions. It's all about learning as much as you can learn from the people, from the knowledgeable people, and they're out there. There's plenty of them.
Awesome. Look, I and Ronstan really appreciate you coming on and doing the interview with us today. Your house is flooding at the moment due to the horrible rains that we're copping up there in northern part of Australia, Queensland and New South Wales. So you're an absolute gem and a superstar for doing that at some really, really hard times. So appreciate it very much. And thanks for coming on Shooting the Breeze with Ronstan.
Well, good. Thanks a lot, Ronstan. Thanks a lot, Steve.